Greetings, students. Saxon Advanced Algebra. I went a bit haywire in the second half of this example 14.5, so I'm coming back to straighten things out a bit. We had a triangle, and I'm going to draw a big picture of it. It looked like this. We'd started out with rectangular coordinates, and we had converted them to one polar coordinate, and then we were finding the other three, and that's where things went bad for me. We know that the hypotenuse is square root of 13, and we determined that this angle was 33.69 degrees. In order to write the first form of the polar coordinate address of that point, square root of 13, and then the angle, we know we measure from here around to here. So in order to find this angle, we take the full 180 and we subtract the 33.69, right? Because we don't want the whole thing, we want to back it up. So when we subtract 1, 3, we find that this measurement is 146.31 degrees. And that's the number that goes in here, right? This number is very helpful, but it's not the number that belongs in here. So that's how we got the first form of our answer, and that was correct. And that all went fine in the first round of my example. Then we said, all right, we also know that we can measure angles by going in a negative direction, and we can go around like this, right? And we can make a second form of this that says square root of 13, but we'll put a negative value there because when you go down from the horizon, that's negative. We can see that the two make 360, right? The green and the green angle and the red angle together add up to the full circle. So we can take 360 degrees and subtract the 146.31. Let's do some borrowing. 9, 6. And this is this angle, but we know we need to make that negative because we're measuring it in the opposite direction, right? And this is also correct, and I got that right the last time too. It was the blue one that made me a little nutty. And in this one, what we were remembering is that we can put a minus sign in front of the hypotenuse, and what that basically does is it gives we tell people to do this, but then we say, no, actually go in the opposite direction. So we want to send them to this line, but by putting a negative in front of our hypotenuse, that will tell them actually go backwards from here. So now we want to measure the angle that comes from here around to here, right? So that means we're going to need 90, 180, 270, plus we're going to need this amount, right? This amount is equal to this angle. Right? So if we can calculate the size of just that wedge, then we know to add that to the 270 to get the number that we need to go all the way around to there. How can we find that number? Well, one way we can do it is to take 146, which goes all the way to there, and subtract that 90 out. That will give us this piece. So I'm going to take 146.31, and I'm going to subtract 90, and that will give me 56.31 for this. And I'm going to write that down. Got a lot of arrows going on. So that means this is also 56.31. And if I add that to the 270, then I will get all the way around to here. So 56.31, and that is 0.316. 326.31. That is the correct answer. Okay, this was the one I was getting wrong last time, although I got it right, but I'll explain that in a minute. Okay, and then the fourth polar coordinate is to say, okay, we're still going to use the negative hypotenuse, but this time we'll also use a negative angle. Okay, so we'll use two negatives. So I'm going to use negative square root of 13. And I can see that this angle, the one that we're interested in now, is equal to that original angle we found in what seems like 6 hours ago, right? So I can get this answer quite quickly. I can just say negative 33.69, okay? And this one I also got correctly last time. Now, I was able to get this answer last time in a second way, and that was by saying, okay, the blue angle, which was the one I was struggling with, and the orange angle, those two also add up to 360, right? So what I can also do to find the blue angle, if I work out of order slightly, right? Because I was trying to get the blue one before I did the orange, but if I go in the opposite order, I go, okay, these two also have to add to 360, so I can take 360 and subtract the 33.69, right? I want the whole circle, but not the orange part. That gives me just a second. I'm trying to do too much of this in my head. 1, 3, 6, 2, and then I borrowed against that as well. No, the 3's the fine. 326.31, look, there it is, the same number. That's how I was able to get it in the previous video, by subtracting this way. But when I tried to do it this way, I was making mistakes in there. I won't even tell you what the mistakes were, but I was making mistakes in this part of the calculation. So that's a good tip that I can share with you, is that when you're doing these, the two positive hypotenuse angles should add to 360, and the two negative hypotenuse angles should add to 360. So that's a good way to check your work. I hope that your brain has not imploded. I hope that this makes a certain amount of sense. I apologize for my mistake in the previous video. I wish I was a perfect mathematician, but I am a human being, so I got a little crazy. Okay, I'll be sure to check in with you this week and ask if this makes sense to you. I hope it does. Thank you. Goodbye.